Alright, 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 alright. Bum bum bum, bo 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 ba da ba ba da ba ba da ba da ba ba da 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 ba ba da ba 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 na na da 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 na ba 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 ba. Oh, gotta change the tile. Okay. There he goes. Alright. Welcome, assholes, motherfuckers, and students just here to, I don't know, listen to me, I guess. I don't know why people watch this shit, but sure. Why not? Alright, today I'm just gonna be talking. So feel free to minimize this tab while you go on and do the rest of your shit. I don't know. Playing games, studying, more likely. For that WAP exam, just putting this in the background so you can hear more information about the thing you're studying. Maybe you're using one of my good friends' Quizlets about the must-know peoples and dates. Or you might just be jacking off. I don't know. I don't judge. Now then, today we're going to be talking about everything that happened from 1914. I think that's it. Yep, 1914 to about to now. We're gonna call it right now. So let's see. I guess we just gotta start off with World War One. Let's be honest. So World War One. What led up to World War One? Well, World War One was preceded by a lot of different things. Okay, number one, I think really just the number one thing is nationalism and militarism. Or militarism, I guess. Just building up uh, ever since the Napoleonic Wars. Uh, so that basically everybody was super proud of their country. Everybody was super patriotic, and we've been having all sorts of these cool world fairs and what is it? We've been having a bunch of cool world fairs, and we've also had Olympic Games and all sorts of new developments. But really, all that competition just facilitated us, or sorry, not specifically us, but just people in general saying, you know what? I want to prove we're better. Because we clearly are. Obviously. So, it's time to freaking prove it. And with all this brand new military technology, surely we can just kick some ass. Right? So, you know, there was just war in the air. People could feel it. Everybody could tell. Shit's about to go down. Alright? Shit is about to go the fuck down. Also, along with that, we've got. Also, along with that, we've got not only the creation of some brand new military tech, being basically machine guns, and well, that's the notable one from before World War One. But it's basically machine guns as well as. Yeah, really, all the other ones I can think of are just from from during the war. Yeah. And there's also the Balkans, which was very rightfully referred to as a powder keg. Okay, situation there. It's a pretty desperate situation, right? because we got ooh, fancy. Because we've got, what is it? We got Yugoslavia, and we've got these in Czechoslovakia inside of that. And we have Serbia there, along with Austria-Hungary, and they're all feuding over a bunch of random ass shit. And tensions are running pretty high. Pretty high. And so this eventually leads to a bunch of alliances. So basically, oh shit. That does not look good. Okay. I'm multitasking here, to be honest. I'm not sure anybody's gonna find any use from this, but anyway, where was I? Yes, alliances. What also led up to World War One was a huge ass system of alliances, and these alliances basically just made it so that if one guy attacked another guy, the entire world was gonna be just embroiled in a huge ass motherfucking war. Like, just inevitable. Which is, obviously exactly what happened, but it bears worth mentioning. So you have two main alliances by the time World War One comes around. You have the Triple Entente and the Triple Alliance. Now, normally when you think of alliance, you think of like the Allies in World War II, but that's not exactly right. In this case, the Allies are not America. Let's be honest. That's the only way we're gonna think about it. And so the Triple Alliance was made up of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. That's right. And the Triple Alliance, or the Triple Entente, which was the opposing alliance, was made up of, what is it? Was made up of Britain, Russia, and France. Jesus Christ, that was bad. I'm sorry. Right. Okay. Yeah. Should get some sleep at some point in the future. Anyway, so that is how the alliances are set up, and eventually, one of Serbia's leaders, one of Austria's leaders gets shot. Assassination of Franz Ferdinand. Everybody thinks it's Serbia. Everybody gets pissed off, and then before you know it, you've got World War on your hands. Shit, bad shit's going on, and it eventually devolves into what was essentially just massive trench warfare, and that's not exactly a good experience, right? Just mud, just long trenches, people dying without any real meaning. Military commanders were still trying to use tactics from like the olden days, and that shit doesn't work anymore. It just doesn't. So now you have young men charging into the front lines, just getting completely wrecked, getting destroyed by all the machine guns and flamethrowers and all that terrible shit. So I don't know why, it's just really depressing. And this has then just the fact that so many young men died in World War One had profound implications for the future of Europe, because there's just a massive amount of missing people. So many people died that it was called the Great War, and then there was thought never to be another war like that again. Obviously, there was, but no, we're just not gonna mention that until later. That's World War II. We can talk about that shit at a different time. But so after a while, Italy betrays the alliance to join the Entente. Russia gets overthrown, and Russia's government pulls out because they have by far lost the most people from this conflict, and they're pretty screwed at the moment. And so eventually that will lead to the Communist Revolution. Some pretty important shit. Who's that? No one. Okay. It's been 10 minutes and I've barely gotten through World War I. In the end, America joins the side of the Entente, and it's basically just Germany versus the world. And, eventually they've got to give up. But, what leads to World War II is the fact that Germany got the shittiest ass treaty you can possibly think of. Because, right, if you'll remember, this shit was started up by Serbia being a power, or rather, by Serbia being some assholes and attacking Austria-Hungary. And, now Germany then became blamed for all of the horrors of the war. Which is, kind of a dick move. But, America, we're not always too nice to our enemies. So, basically after World War I, all the people that fought, because, obviously Britain, pulled its, Britain pulled all of its colonies into the fight as well. So, obviously, everybody's coming together and saying, hey, want some of that good old-fashioned independence, assholes? And the British, the French, and the Americans shut everybody out of the conference, drew up their own treaty, and told everybody to go fuck themselves. Which is not exactly good for, peace in general, but rip. But, so with that wonderful introduction, with that Treaty of Versailles, it set up the way for World War II, because it made Germany pay for everything. And again, remember, Serbia and Austria were the only ones who did jack shit. So it's basically like, let's see, if your friend got into a fight, and then you're like, oh shit, now I gotta help his ass. And then, like, you take one step into the fight, and then your friend gets beat up, like, terribly, and then you get into the fight, and then your friend is just all dead, basically. But you get blamed for the fight, and then you suffer all the repercussions. But none of the other guys, no, they don't have to deal with jack shit. And so that's basically the situation Germany found itself in. So, bound to piss a lot of people off. As you do. So, Germany is having to pay to the rest of broke and destroyed Europe out of its own broken, destroyed pockets. While America is over across the ocean just kind of celebrating, right? Because they were the only ones that had that kind of happy little war fantasy. They just came in, rescued the rescued the British and the French, and just kind of wrecked ass. And so they have a booming economy. Started up that wonderful period of the Roaring Twenties, right? All the way up until the Depression happened, which, isn't exactly helpful to you know, the broken, destroyed Europe. So, yeah, that wasn't exactly too good. But, so we go up through the Roaring Twenties, and everybody's just trying to rebuild. America's getting rich off of everybody until they fall into a deep depression from the stock market crash, and that shit ain't exactly helpful to the rest of the world. And so we have populist regimes rise along with the communist rise in Russia, with October revolutions and February revolutions and whatnot. We also have the rise of fascist regimes coming along from places like from first Italy, which then spreads over to Germany by way of that wonderful Adolf Hitler. Whoa, so tired. Okay, where are we? Yes, we're covering the rise. And all the while, colonies around the world are starting to fight for their independence. Nobody's going to get their independence until after World War II. Right after World War II, all empires are just dissolved. Okay, all of them are just completely and utterly dissolved. But until World War II is over, none of that shit is going to happen. So while India is starting that fight for independence, and China is finally starting to get out of its kind of shitty predicament, until that happens, oof. Okay, need to focus. Sorry. So until that happens, all empires are still up, but they're still in a terrible shape, right? Because Britain basically just used them to fund everything, so so Britain's economy is kind of in the shitter. It's pretty dead. Let me think. Where am I now? We are going on to World War II. Okay, 30s. Right. America, Great Depression. Britain and everybody else in Europe, pretty bad. Less bad than right after World War I, but it's still pretty freaking bad. India is starting to regain its independence. Africa and South America are still kind of in the shit. But all that changes, obviously, with Mussolini starting up the fascist movement and Adolf Hitler following right after. And so, like for a time, Adolf Hitler was seen as a pretty cool dude. He was bringing Germany out of its terrible depression right after World War One, and in general he was booming back Germany's economy. Germany's economy was booming again. And trying to think. And really, he was basically leading Germany back to its former glory, to be honest. And so okay. And so nobody realized that he was going to be a power-hungry, Jew-hating dictator, right? In fact, he was at one point the Time Man of the Year because he just brought Germany back from the brink. Right? So they're rocking and rolling. Germany is rocking and rolling because of that dude. And so, really, if he wasn't, if he didn't kill all those Jews and do all those really terrible things, he'd probably still be revered as he'd probably be revered as almost a hero, right? But, he's an asshole. 'Cause fuck Hitler. So eventually, he starts trying to get things, starting to militarize Germany, he's starting to do things, and all the European powers and Americans are like, oh, no, 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 don't do that. But, they don't have any power to do anything at all, really, right? Because all they can do is just tell him to kindly go fuck himself, and, that's not exactly gonna, that ain't exactly gonna get results, if you know what I'm saying. So, they tried at first to, basically follow a policy of appeasement with Mr. Hitler. But, obviously, eventually, that shit ain't gonna fly. So, because eventually Hitler starts asking for more and more and more, and the Europeans are pretty obviously just unable to respond. And eventually he just goes out on an all-out war. And now we're in World War II. Whoop the fucking do. Right? So, Germany gets its allies. Germany follows this policy of blitzkrieg, and basically, just go. And it's called lightning warfare, and they basically just go in and they go, and they rush the French as fast as they can. They get to Paris. France follows pretty damn fast, and Britain has to evacuate in the Dunkirk evacuation. They've made a non-aggression pact with Russia. They've allied with Japan. They've allied with Italy. And Germany's starting to fuck things up. Okay? And so, I mean, I'm pretty sure y'all know about World War II. Basically, Americans come in. They go and save the day with the USSR. They nuke Japan. There's a bunch of terrible atrocities. The Holocaust happens. All sorts of terrible shit. Rip. So after World War II now, though. Colonies, empires be dead. Okay? Everybody wants their independence, and Britain and France and others finally go like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't give a shit. And so they don't give a shit anymore. And so all these countries just gain independence all around this one time. Basically Africa in general. And I'm not trying to be racist or anything, but it's just Africa. Not as a country, as a continent, damn it. But Africa in general just gets their independence. Either really, really bloodily or really, really peacefully. Right? Like Ghana is one of the first, and they get it really peacefully. Algeria is a very bloody war. The French, and it's pretty terrible. Let's see. China, has a communist takeover with the nationalists, or kind of the people favoring democracy, moving over to Formosa, which is now Taiwan, whose country status is still debatable. Let's be honest. But what else? I really can't think. Okay. Whose country status right now is pretty debatable. So, let's see. What else? What else? What else? And China then goes through a period such as, what is it? I forgot what it was called, but it was the one period where Mao Zedong basically tries to make China industrialize, and it fails so fucking miserably. And then he tries to do the Cultural Revolution. Oh no, Great Leap Forward. That was what it was called. China's Great Leap Forward. And really all that did was just plunge China down the shithole, along with the Cultural Revolution. And eventually, what is it? And then later Deng Xiaoping comes in, and China evolves into what it is today, which is basically a communist capitalist society. It's very interesting, right? Because, they previously had special economic zones from when they were being controlled by the Europeans. Now they use them to their advantage. So they're a communist state. However, they have capitalist societies within it, such as major cities and also Hong Kong, which went from the British back to the Chinese, and Hong Kong was basically untouched. And so they basically use the capitalist economy to, what is it? What is it now? Blah. And so China is now basically saying, China's ideology is now, if you could kindly shut the fuck up about democracy, we'll engage in your capitalist economies while keeping our own communist society, which I guess worked, because look where we are. See, India, has all Gandhi shows up, all the protests, and then Nehru leads, and on and on and on. Let's see. What else? Outcomes of World War II. Obviously, America is fucking booming. USSR is also booming. The European Union is starting up in the later years. Oh, no shit, the Cold War. Right, so, at the end of it, So at the end of it all, you have the U.S., which is promoting democracy and capitalism. Okay. Well, anyway, democracy and capitalism, while the USSR is on the other side promoting communism. And originally Stalin is like Stalin originally did not want to follow Trotsky, which was the guy that vied with Stalin for control after Lenin. He wanted to keep communism inside the Soviet Union rather than try to spread it throughout the world like Trotsky did. But eventually he did try to do so slightly more, and so we can have a buffer zone between the USSR and the US. So you got the Eastern Bloc and the Western Bloc. And so for base from right after World War II all the way up to around 1991 when the USSR dissolves and Boris Yeltsin takes over Russia to make it become a democracy, but not really. It's very interesting. What is this? Hold up. Got something interesting. Who the fuck? I don't give a shit. Okay. 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 Cold War. And basically, the US and the USSR start fighting proxy wars all over the world, with USSR going to Afghanistan and getting fucked over, the US going to Vietnam and getting fucked over, and the US going into Korea, and China going into Korea, being communist, and everybody is fucked over, except for South Korea, who kind of gets out pretty well. And eventually, after a while and a bunch of staring at each other about nuclear weapons, the USSR just straight up dissolves because Gorbachev tries to include capitalist freedoms and rights and ideas into the communist society, which just dissolves it. It doesn't work because it was kind of failing already after Stalin, but after Gorbachev starts including capitalists and democratic things, it just falls apart because, it's no longer communist. And so now, and then you have, terrorism pops up, and what the hell? Oh my god, my StarCraft cursor was going over the was all over the screen the entire time. That's hilarious. I need to keep this in mind next time. Okay. Um But yeah. So after the Cold War happened, we're basically coming up to now. Terrorism becomes the thing, and the European Union becomes more powerful, creating the euro and all sorts of shit. Germany is obviously reunited by the end of the Cold War, and is now a major power. South American countries were freed a while ago, but they still are rather dependent on everybody else, and there's still large corruption, among other things. And, yeah. Leads up to now. There's that stock market crash in 2008 with the Great Recession. And, yep. That's pretty much it. Then you go up to now. And I'm just going to assume you know what happened in, the past 10 years. Because you lived through it. And you also should have looked at that shit. Vladimir Putin became a thing. And now we have a fucking orange for a president. And you know what? I think that's all you need to hear out of me. Make sure you study your shit. Good luck on that exam. Whenever you may have it. Peace. Peace the fuck out, motherfucker.